for information and related technology. It's basically a framework created by ISACA for information technology management and, of course, IT governance. So having said that, we'll probably try and demystify IT governance. Sometime back in my organization, we had an all-hands meet, and we were fortunate to have our CEO part of it. He made a statement while addressing the entire organization. He said that it's not important in terms of whether being right or wrong. There's nothing called good or bad. What is important is to be effective. Probably being effective in terms of the current changing landscape of the business dynamics, the kind of industry we are in. So I'd call it as a defining moment, because it helps to change the perception in which we think in terms of understanding the business and the solutions, the customers, and things like that. So I would always call it as the defining moment. So what is important is to be effective, which is very relevant as well. I've been a big fan of this movie called The Godfather. Of course, this is a little off track, but there is a relevance of a statement made in this movie to this webinar. Marlon Brando, I mean, he's been a lead actor, and while he passes on the legacy to his son, Al Pacino, who's enacted this role, he says that keep your friends close, your enemies closer. Probably this is again a defining moment. This was said about, I mean, this is a movie based on a real life story. This is way back in the 1970s. Probably he was talking about anticipating and mitigating risks 70 years, I mean, almost about 40 years back. That's truly a defining moment. If you look at the current industry trends, the market, the business world, there's a significant change in the meaning of the term asset. Nowadays, even those intangible assets, say for example, information, knowledge, expertise, people, skills, reputation, etc., is a very important part of an organization's sustainable competitive advantages, because these assets rely on IT. So these are what we call the defining moments in terms of IT governance, trying to demystify IT governance. The current landscape, the business landscape, we all know, of course, for sure, IT is a major enabler to almost all business transformation initiatives. What is important is to understand how IT is being used, whether in terms of whether the organization achieves its vision, the mission, or a specific strategic goals. In today's complex and constantly changing business world, the alignment of IT to the business and IT governance is high on the agenda of the senior management. The reason is business drivers are probably the building blocks of strategy. They reflect goals, the accomplishments of the organizations which is after them. Strategic planning based on the alignment of IT goals to business goals is very critical in terms of the business IT alignment. This is probably the building block of IT governance. So once having done that, this needs to be cascaded into a set of goals for the specific departments, which will set the strategy, the IT strategy, to be more precise. Finally, we need all the supporting processes which must be carefully planned to help translate or cascade these IT strategies into actions. Sorry for it. Continuing with understanding the business landscape, we all know for sure, we do understand customer is the king, he's the boss. If you look back in the offices, IT is overwhelmed with numerous changes, frequent demands by the business, because the world we are living in often comes by the way of it's like a flood. The business requesting like this minute solution, and when you look at the solution, this is for probably a new need. Increasingly, the senior management is realizing significant impact that IT has on the success of the enterprises. Top management basically need to understand um, if IT is able to likely achieve the objectives, judiciously managing the risks it faces, appropriately reorganizing or recognizing opportunities and acting upon them. This is of paramount importance. So now a perspective more from in terms of IT governance. Do we need to achieve success in this current information economy? Governance of IT is of course a very critical facet of the entire enterprise. According to Peter and Ross from MIT, the governance basically answers very critical questions. What decision must be made? Who should make these decisions? And how these decisions be made, or how will the decisions be made? And what is the process for monitoring the results? So, fundamentally, IT governance is the process by which the decisions are made around the IT investments. Governance basically ensures that enterprise objectives are achieved by looking into stakeholder needs, setting directions, by prioritizing, which is very important in terms of the business, all the stakeholders, making the appropriate decisions. And once made, we need to monitor them, monitor the performance, the compliance, the progress against those progress made against those decisions, of course. Management is more in terms of planning, building, executing, monitoring the activities in alignment with the direction set by the governance body to achieve what we call the enterprise objectives. So fundamentally, IT governance focuses specifically on information technology systems, their performance, and risk management. If you look back in terms of the governance basically fills the gap that is there between the business and the technical or the technology domains, and of course between the management and the strategy itself. So the basic objectives of IT governance, if we have to put it in a nutshell, is to align the IT strategy with business strategy. IT has strategic resource to deliver value, IT risk management, which is again of a paramount importance, the resource and financial management, and of course the performance management, which is governed by, of course, the policies and procedures. What is most important is IT governance is, of course, the responsibility of the board of directors and executive management. Typically, if you look at boardroom meeting, they generally revolve around resource utilization, say billability, the bench strength or the bench weakness. Of course, they are the ones to be talked in the boardroom, but we need to go overboard now in terms of IT governance. This is probably 20 years back. This was good enough to talk about resource utilization or profitability or account management. There's more to it now which needs to be talked. IT governance is basically a board-led management framework. The top management gets involved on a day-to-day operational issues as well. It's not a software solution. It's not a single proprietary framework for making IT an integrated value-adding part of the business. We need to understand how this IT governance basically transforms these enterprises. It is fact-based strategy setting. The focus is on customers' point of view within the corporate framework, of course, where the participation is from the senior management. It needs to be strategic, which is basically long-term, and tactical, which is day-to-day operational. We need to track all costs to business value in all the activities. We have to provide iterative incremental improvements in terms of what we want to achieve. Treat architecture, technology, and security as an enterprise issue. We need highly motivated, high-performance organizations. It is an integral part of enterprise governance, which basically consists of the leadership, organizational structures, and of course, bottom line is the processes, which ensures that the organization's IT will sustain and extend the organization's strategies and objectives rather. So fundamentally, IT governance is concerned about two things, very fundamental. IT's delivery of value to the business, and how do we anticipate, control, and mitigate the risks. This is what we call the building block of IT governance. PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the the big four consulting organizations, has captured some of the experiences of professionals and business houses in terms of their experience in implementing IT governance. They've conducted an extensive interviews with the business leaders from across different industry segments, and they have a summary. They've summed up the findings. During the interviews, the business leaders from many different organizations felt that IT alignment is the highest rated driver and outcome of IT governance practices. That's of course no excuses. That has been of the highest or probably the top priority. These business leaders have felt that IT governance is still very much associated with fulfilling control or compliance requirements. I'm tempted to say yes, but that's not all. There's something more to it. Of course, we need to fulfill the control or the compliance requirements. Most of these business leaders have felt that IT governance is driven only by top management. There is no much of an engagement model down below. That's probably something we need to change. One of the significant outcomes of this interview or survey from PricewaterhouseCoopers is these business leaders have said that the benefits of implementing IT governance are not measured, number one. Second is they say it is difficult to quantify. So one of the business leaders said that, this is one of the statements, what you can see down below here, you need someone in the driver's seat who knows the business process as well as IT processes, someone who's been there, done that at a detailed level. He says COBIT is a critical success factor. Without it, I can't achieve IT governance. This is captured from a specific individual, a business leader, of course. Going on with these experiences, we have been, PricewaterhouseCoopers has been able to quantify certain aspects of it based on the survey. They believe that about more than 95% of the participants, they're using one of the major IT governance frameworks. Okay, that's good news. There's a small number of them use their own frameworks, maybe consultant defined, homegrown, absolutely fine, no problem, we can go ahead with it. Major frameworks used by these organizations include COBIT, which accounts to close to about 63%, ITIL, Information Technology and Infrastructure Library from OGC, is about 60% of these organizations have been using it. There are other frameworks used to a lesser degree, which includes CMMI predominantly from the software services industry, PRINCE2, which is a project management methodology from OGC again, COSO, and of course the ISO 17799 information security standard. In 65% of the cases, organizations are using both COBIT and ITIL in terms of a combination with each other, with lesser known frameworks or with some other frameworks as well. But it is revolving around the usage of COBIT and ITIL. Some of the participants, or say a minority of the participants, use no frameworks at all. Of course, this is a reality. These are often these organizations with very low awareness basically in terms of governance. One of the business leaders said that I use frameworks, I think I moved, yeah. Said I use frameworks and standards for inspiration. That's very good. And we use what we think is useful, that's good, and relevant for our organization. And this is sheer common sense. So he says, I use frameworks and standards for inspiration. And we use what we think is useful and relevant for our organization. We have no intentions to get ourselves certified or to follow standards to the spirit of the letter. That's fantastic. In terms of the roles, responsibilities, this is of interest to all of us. The critical roles required for actually the IT governance implementation or the framework. Because the board of directors, we need the executive management, the chief information officer, the delivery officers, and of course the business unit executives. They make things happen. If you look at the specific role of the executive management, mostly in terms of a CEO and things like that, he has to cascade strategies, policies, and goals, provide organizational structures in terms of decision making. Most important is to embed clear accountabilities. This is often a pain area. Accountability is often a pain area. We need to measure performance time to time. Focus on core business competencies, IT must support. Focus on important processes, the IT processes, and of course we need to focus on the core competencies. So this is the role the executive management plays in terms of the IT governance. There's been a review from the Harvard Business School. This is, I mean, they've analyzed, assessed, and come out with kind of finding that a lack of board oversight for IT activities they feel is dangerous. It puts the firm at risk in the same way that failing to audit its book would. That's true as well. The most effective IT governance programs in the world are basically championed by the executive management and of course the board of directors as well. They are embraced in one form or another at every level of the enterprise. That is very essential. The most successful businesses changes enabled by IT are those initiated, championed, and directed by the business executives. The role is, of course, again of paramount importance. Effective governance of IT requires proactive involvement of the board and the executive management. And this is what the message, the IT governance framework is getting across the business domain or across the globe. That effective governance of IT requires proactive involvement of the board and of course the executive management and of course the business unit executives as well. So we have set a kind of a pedestal to try